everyone. I am so excited today, and actually, it's nighttime. So, tonight, do you see how I get this like halo whenever it's nighttime? I'm really loving that. Anyway, I am going to introduce to you author ALYSSA Palombo and her newest book, which came out October 2nd, The Spell Book of Katrina von Tassel. Oh my gosh, I was actually scared to read this book because I was like, do you really mess with the Legend of Sleepy Hollow? I have read too many books that have like messed with older books and it not be good. And I love Washington Irving's books so much. I had to do a project on it when I was in junior high. They call it middle school now. And I was afraid. I was like, oh no, what if this doesn't end well? Well, I am about to tell her how amazing this is, okay? She did, so I would like stand up and give her a standing ovation, okay? That's how good a job she did. And so I'm going to be telling her, and probably a lot, and hopefully try not to be so annoying. But everyone, here is ALYSSA.
Hi, everyone. I am so excited because I am speaking with author ALYSSA Palombo, and we are talking about her brand new book out in the beginning of October called The Spellbook of Katrina van Tassel. And ALYSSA, you can't see me, but I'm giving you a standing ovation.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, I love this book so much. And, you know, I had to do a middle school junior high back in the day, project on the Legend of Sleepy Hollow. So I was scared because I loved it so much. And I've read so many books that have like gone where you went and it hadn't worked out well for them. And then as I'm reading this, I'm like, oh my gosh, ALYSSA, this is perfect. I was like talking to you while I'm reading it. So.
Oh, I'm so glad. Yeah, thank you so much. That was something that, you know, worried me a little bit, as I know people really obviously love the original story, and it was a little nerve-wracking to think of how those people would react to my book, but so far their reaction seems to have been really positive, and that's always great to hear.
Oh yeah, and I never read any of the comments before I read a book because I don't want anybody's comment to like, you know, impede on my reading. But when I went back today, I was like, wow, the comments you're getting on Amazon and Goodreads are amazing, and you must just be thrilled.
Yeah, so for my own mental health, I guess we could say I don't read the stuff on Amazon and Goodreads, but just people have reached out to me like on social media and things like that to tell me that they really liked it. You know, so that's always so great to see, and I always appreciate, you know, when people really love it, that they take the time to reach out. That means a lot.
Yeah, and you know, and even doing book reviews, because I know I'm bad with that too.
Definitely.
You know, and when I saw how many people like commented, I was like, that is incredible for how short a time it's been out. You know, that people take the time to like, and like I said, there wasn't a bad one in there. There was, I was like, oh my gosh, everybody felt the exact same way I did. So that's awesome.
That's great to hear.
Yeah, so I'm going to let you tell everybody like the whole concept, and so that I know, because I don't want to give any giveaway. You know, I don't want to tell too much, so I'll let you do that.
All right, so no spoilers. But the premise of the book is basically it's a retelling and also a continuation of the Legend of Sleepy Hollow from the point of view of Katrina van Tassel, who is basically the one significant female character in Washington Irving's original story. But she's kind of, you know, it always bothers me a little bit that she's kind of portrayed in a very flat and almost sexist way. So I love the original story, and I love the creepy elements of it and the way that the legend has sort of taken on a life of its own in our culture over the years. But so I really wanted to give Katrina a voice and let her tell her own story. And so as those of you who have read the original story will know, at the end, Ichabod Crane sort of disappears, and Irving hints at what might have happened, but we sort of don't ever find out for sure. So that was the other thing I wanted to do, was give my own explanation as to what might have happened to him. So that's basically the premise of the book.
Oh, I loved. Okay, so I'm trying to think of it in like some sort of order of how much to tell you like the parts that I love. So everybody is looking at this cover. I love the title. I love the cover. It is absolutely beautiful. You must have been thrilled with it.
Yeah, the cover is perfect. It's exactly, you know, I'm not a visual artist, so sometimes I have a little bit of trouble like picturing what I would want a cover of my book to look like. It's just sort of not my forte, but this one had the exact vibe that I wanted. Just it captured it perfectly. And as for the title, I actually the day, not even the day, but like the moment that I came up with the idea for the book, I had the title right away. Like it came instantaneously, which is not always how it works with titles.
Right.
In fact, right now I'm kind of racking my brain trying to think of a title for my fourth book, and I'm just like not coming up with anything that feels perfect. But this one, I just was lucky enough that I had the title right off the bat, and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. We're going with this.
Yeah, I'm looking at it and I'm like, the colors. I love all those blues and
Yes.
I don't know. It's and then you see the back of her. It's just perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
I've been seeing it. I saw this book cover like eons ago on Instagram, and I knew it right. I'm like, I have to read that book because a cover does matter. Unfortunately, people say it doesn't, but it does. You know.
Well, it's sort of the first thing that, you say don't judge a book by its cover, but it is the first thing that a reader usually knows about it and the first thing that's going to either grab them or kind of push them away. So, it is important for sure.
Yeah, this is one of those covers that when I go to Barnes & Noble, because I get so many books on Kindle and NetGalley and all that I don't get to like hold the physical book. Yeah. So this is one of the books that I'm going to go and I'm going to hold because I want to see like the cover in person, because I'm sure that it has like a different feel to, I don't know. I'm one of those weird people that I need to feel it. And then,
Well, so you'll probably appreciate this, but I love like the texture of the cover. I just really like. It's really nice, and I really like how they did it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because every book is different in texture, and how the letters are and everything. So I'm like one of those weird. Like, I go there to look at book covers of books I've already read. So. But I'm going to read to everybody the beginning of the prologue because when I first read this sentence, I was like confused because I was like, wait, what? Because it starts off, Washington Irving got it wrong. And I'm like, wait, is this like, what is she talking about? I didn't know if it was the beginning of the story or if it was like you trying to tell us something. But then when I went back and read it, I was like, oh, that's so perfect. I mean, what a way to start the book off is perfect.
Yeah, it's kind of a bold statement, but my editor and I both liked it as a first sentence, so we ran with it.
Yeah, exactly. And then the last line of the prologue, which I also loved, was, now you too will know the truth. And I was like, ooh, okay. All right, I'm ready. and my favorite part about Katrina, because I just fell in love with her so much, was their love story.
Yeah.
And you write this is the first book of yours that I've read, but I loved the love story between them. And of course, like the love scenes and I was like, this is so well done. I'm going to go back and read your other two books. So just so you know.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Yeah. I mean, I'm a bit of a romantic at heart sometimes. So, that was definitely, I wanted them to have this story that sort of is going to really grab readers by the heart and maybe break their heart. And, I don't want to say too much about sort of how it all works out, but,
no, we don't want to say
well, thank
that.
you.
Yeah, but you know what's funny is that some of the lines that you gave him, like for her in the very beginning, so it's not really a spoiler, but it's like, I was speaking to my 16-year-old self that was like, run, no, don't run. Like I was like, oh my gosh, he's saying that to you. No, don't. But, and then the other part's like, oh, I get it. I know. I know, he's so cute. I mean, it's just, that's what it brought out in me, which, of course, that's what you were trying to do with her. It's like,
yeah, exactly. Because, when the story starts, at the time it ends, she's a little bit older. It spans about 2 years altogether, 2.5 years. But when it starts, she's 18, and, this is her sort of falling in love for the first time. And as I think a lot of us have experienced, that's very intense, and it's very, very easy to get swept up in. So I'm glad that happened to you as a reader, certainly, because that's exactly what I was going for.
The emotion. Yeah, and I love the end. I want everybody to read the ending because you talk about the historical part of it, which I don't know if Amazon has this as a historical fiction, but I really did love the way you wove history into the book. So we knew where we were, and things happened at that time, And I was like, this is a very interesting, And then I couldn't really remember if, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow said that, but then you do clarify that at the end, that it really didn't have a time period.
Yeah, so the original story, there's nothing in the story itself that gives you an exact year that it's set in. It's definitely post-revolution because, they mention a few things that from back during the revolution, and of course the Headless Horseman was a soldier during the revolution, so we know that it's after that, but he doesn't exactly specify when. So I kind of picked, what I actually did was I sort of picked a span of a few years based on what else was going on in history and how I wanted to bring that in. And it's, sort of the outside historical and political events that are going on, I bring in a little bit to kind of give some context, but it's not the focus of the story, but I wanted it to be kind of humming in the background. Because also to me, this is very much a story about, anxieties. Katrina is anxious about her future with Ichabod. She's anxious once he disappears. She's anxious about, what happened to him. Where did he go? And then also behind all of that is this very real anxiety that so many people have that about their new country that they're living in. Sort of, is this country going to make it? They didn't really know that at that point. So I wanted that to just be a little bit of a background. Again, not the focus, but to bring that in just to give it a little bit of an added flavor.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that Dutch was spoken.
Yeah.
That was, you never really hear about that, in
That was something really interesting that I learned when I was researching was that, Dutch was still very heavily spoken in the Hudson River Valley, into the 1800s. And so you did get a lot more people speaking English and also the influence of the English culture. But yeah, for a very long time, that was still one of the primary languages. So that was interesting as a writer to sort of juggle, okay, so who's in the scene, who's talking to who, what language would they be speaking? That's not something I've ever had to work with before, but my previous two books are both set in Italy, and everyone's Italian, and so you presume they're all speaking Italian. So this was interesting to kind of consider, okay, who can understand what's going on here? Is there someone who can't understand? And, what difference might that make and things like that?
Yeah, because I'd only envisioned that the people that were here during that time period, you're thinking, well, they're English.
Right.
They're all English. You know what I mean? I never thought about that they were Dutch,
Right.
So I found that, and like I said, I love historical fiction. I love learning little things, and you put lots of little details like that throughout the whole thing, which, just made it that much richer. Yeah. But, how much did you have to dissect the Legend of Sleepy Hollow?
Well, so I read it a bunch of times, obviously. I've read it many times over the years, but when I started working on this, I read it several times over the course of it. But I kind of gave myself permission to, obviously take some liberties, because to me a retelling it should expand on the original, and it should, borrow from the original, but also bring something new to it. Certain things I changed. For instance, there were a couple of details I changed when in the scene where Katrina first tells Ichabod the story of the Headless Horseman. There are some changes that I made from Irving's version, because part of what this book also became for me was about stories and about how stories change with the telling, and about how no two people are going to tell the same story the same way. So I wanted to deviate a little bit from what Irving did, but sort of still capture that spirit of this sort of what I like to think of as our first American fairy tale, really. Still hold on to that feeling and also expand it, and also bring a little bit of a feminist energy to it as well.
Yeah. And, this is a romantic book, and it has, female friendships, and I just feel like it had everything, with the history. For me, it's the perfect book. And, I'm just so happy that you took the risk. I think a lot of people won't go there. They don't know if it's gonna work. And
yeah.
I'm so happy. I'm sure Alyssa had her moments that she was scared, but I'm so happy that she went with it.
Well, thank you so much, because it in a way for me it almost is a little bit weird that people love this book so much. And what I mean by that is that in writing it, I sort of just sat down and wrote the story that I wanted to read, and I put in all of the different aspects, and things that I like to read about. And so you kind of have that moment of, does anyone care about this except me? So it's been especially gratifying with this book to see that people do, and people have really connected with it. And so thank you for telling me that, because that, that means so much.
Yeah. So one more thing before I let you go. You said you are working on another book.
Yeah.
So when can we expect that? And is it historical fiction like this one?
It is historical fiction.
Okay.
I can't say too much about it quite yet. As far as I know, and this is subject to change, as far as I know, it should be out most likely next year, probably next fall. It is, I can tell you, it is also, again, set in Renaissance Italy. I'm sort of, backtracking a little bit. But it's different from my second novel, The Most Beautiful Woman in Florence, was also set in Italy during the Renaissance. But it's very different from that one in that it's very dark and it's very political. And it's there's a lot of politics, there's a lot of shady dealings and that kind of stuff. So it definitely has a very different feel to it than anything I've done so far.
Yeah, and I always think like with social media now, and especially like Instagram and Facebook, and the authors will be like, "My next book, here's the cover," and it's like July 2000. Like, oh my gosh, like, it's crazy because just even 5 years ago we wouldn't know. We wouldn't be able to see or, what the next, but, the fact that they've already like have a cover reveal and, the whole thing. And that's why when they finally come out, like I've seen this one for months and then it's like, oh my gosh, it's out. Like, okay.
Right. Yeah. And it's tough, as an author to sort of balance that promotional aspect of it because you want it to be, you want people to have it in the back of their heads before it comes out so they know to look for it and they know to grab it. But then, you don't want to push it too hard before it's out because then it's like, well, there's nothing to buy yet. So it's a little bit, you got to kind of strike the right balance of, putting little teasers out there and enough to get people interested and enough to make them, keep it in mind, but not too much that it gets like annoying. That it's like, well, there's nothing we can do with this book yet. It's not out. So yeah, it's a tough line to walk.
Yeah, I just feel like it's this whole new territory for authors that you guys are just exploring now. It's like, where is that, line between the reader and the writer, because, like I said, you guys find out so soon and then you do the cover reveal and we're like, whoa, the cover's already, like, and then you say it's going to be out in January and you're like, July, and you're like, oh, okay.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And I think we're sort of all learning that as we go. Like, publishers, authors, we're kind of all, navigating the different social media and things like that. Like when my first book came out, I wasn't even on Instagram yet, but I've gotten into that and I found that to be really great.
Yeah.
So we're all just figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. One author that I interviewed recently said, I can't even imagine what a book release was before social media.
Yeah.
Like, you're just alone in your house.
Right.
But now, like, you wake up and you've got, like, 50 messages and people telling you already, like, it's so different. And she's like, I'm just so happy we get to celebrate with our readers now,
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's so true. And it's nice because, it sort of reminds me of, what my choir director in college always said when we would go do a concert. He would say that the audience is the other half of the circle. They complete the circle. Mm-hmm. You can perform music, but if you're just, if there's nobody to hear it, then that's one thing. But once you have an audience, it's different. And so I think social media kind of helps for authors to complete that circle a little bit in that we can talk to our readers and we can, know what they think and know that we've reached them or touched them in some way with our work. And that's amazing. I feel like that had to be so much more difficult before.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I want to tell everybody, I'm going to put all of your links, especially the Amazon link underneath here. You can go get her book right now. But I also am going to put her website because she has such an amazing website. It's fun. She keeps up with the blog and, not a lot of writers do. And I loved reading your blog. And so I encourage you to go over there and visit her, her website. And I'll have all your social media links listed below also. So thank you so much, Alyssa. I've been reading it for the last 2 days and it was, incredible. It was so much fun. So thank you.
Thank you.
And I look forward to your next one. So you know where to find me when you
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you again so much for having me. I'm so happy you liked the book. Thanks for talking to me. This was a lot of fun.
Yes, and have a great night. Thank you.
You too. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
She's so much fun. Oh my gosh, I can't say enough how much you have to go get this book. Okay, you got to go get the book. It is really, really that good. And hopefully I wasn't too annoying in telling her a million times how much I loved it. But hopefully she wasn't annoyed with me and she was like, oh, good, she liked it, because I couldn't say enough good things about it. Alyssa has agreed to give a book away on my Instagram tonight. So go over there. The link will be listed below. You can get a chance to win your own copy and it will come directly from her. So everyone, thank you. Thank you. I just dropped my pen. Thank you so much for listening to Alyssa and I talk, and we'll see you soon.